It's only game week 2, and it's safe to say that you could raise alarm bells and ring them all you'd like for Manchester United because things have only gone from bad to worse. Sure, they lost to Arsenal and they probably deserved to win in that first game. But in the second game of Premier League season for 25-26, they have absolutely, things have gotten so much worse. It just feels like a worse performance. It feels like a worse result. And ultimately, like the writing might be on the wall for Ruben Amorim. We're going to talk about today's result. Fulham 1, Manchester United 1. United snatching defeat from the jaws of victory today after having a couple of really great chances at the start of the game through Mateus Cunha, who could have had a hat trick within 14 minutes. And if, things have gone differently, this game could have been really the turning point for Amorim. But man, it just from there on out, after all of that, it got so bad. Like creatively, the creativity was just not there. They couldn't go forward really all that much come the second half. The first half, they did good, United. They really did. There was some chances for Cunha, some chances from Mbeumo. Players were doing well, but it just really went off the rails in the second half there. If you think about the midfield that they have right now, Man United, it started with Casemiro and Fernandes, and Mount was basically one of the two attacking mids, two tens behind Cunha with Mbeumo. It just has no balance. It feels so lopsided. And on the wingback front, United got absolutely destroyed by the likes of Tete and Iwobi. It was rough on both sides. They couldn't really handle them. Shaw started at left center back today. We're going to talk about like the lineups and stuff, but I just really don't think that things are going to change. The biggest issue of all is the fact that Bayindir, who started today, the replacement for Onana, or the number 2, I guess, or the guy who's trying to get the number 1 spot, he played awful. He played absolutely awful. He was not really impressing me whatsoever. Every time a corner would come in, he'd kind of just like be nervous. There was a few times where Iwobi got like near the byline and kind of tried to sneak in a shot, and this guy, instead of grabbing it, he just like flaps at the ball. It really was concerning, and I'm not even a United fan. It's just, if you look at it structurally, that is a big weakness in the squad. And as much as United have invested in some good areas and some great players, I think, in the likes of Cunha, Šeško, and Mbeumo, I can't understand how you spend upwards of hundreds of millions of pounds on a brand new forward line when there's clearly structural issues to the spine of the team. It's fine to go up. I think the purchases they made for the front line were decent, but they still needed probably another midfielder. They probably still needed somebody at the back to help with rotation and to be kind of more resolute, because you don't want to be starting Luke Shaw if somebody's injured. You don't. I'm sorry. Playing him in a back 3 is kind of ludicrous. He did all right, but it really, he got subbed off in the 87th minute. He was actually probably the worst of the 3 defenders they had. Him and Dorgu would look absolutely awful on the left-hand side of the pitch. And now they've got this guy, Lammers, coming in from Belgium. And this is really where it gets worse. Goalkeeper is a high confidence position, like a striker. Obviously, it feels, I think, even more kind of high pressure because it's all on you. If you concede a goal, it's all on you, really. There could be errors and this and that, but as a goalie, you kind of burden yourself with that responsibility of, making sure you don't concede, being a good distributor nowadays in the modern game, thinking quick, thinking smart, not making stupid decisions. Bayindir did none of that today. He came out a little for the Emil Smith Rowe goal, which was, like, let's be honest, like, as soon as Ugarte came on, as soon as we saw Mount come off, we saw Dalo come on, we saw Šeško come on, United started just losing control of the game. They lost that kind of ability to just not really, they weren't dominating, but to keep having a dog in the fight and keep kind of going at Fulham somewhat. The second half was just toothless. There was nothing really to note for United that was like a genuine, like, oh my God, this is a chance. Because even the goal they scored was an own goal at the end of the day. It was at first, Lenny Yoro was celebrating, but it hit off the back of Rodrigo Muniz. So for me, this feels like things could get really bad next week should United not pick up all 3 points against Burnley and have a good display. Because they were given a penalty, which, for me is one of those ones where if it happens to your team, like a player of yours gets pulled down, you're going to be screaming for a penalty. If it happens to a rival team or an opponent team, you kind of are like, that's whatever. But it was interesting to see how VAR handled that, like almost like a whole minute and a half later after play had settled down and progressed. They called it back, and then the ref, who I didn't really note who it was, but he ends up like basically announcing to the whole stadium his exact reasoning, which I think is a good call. It was just interesting to see that transpire. And then eventually it gets to the penalty spot and Bruno gets told to like stop his whole routine and reset the ball and all this. And that, I think, threw him off a little because he ends up skying it. And from there on out, it was just a slow, steady decline for United. I don't know. I really don't know. Fulham, I think they'll be honestly a little mad that they didn't get the result. They'll be a little upset with the own goal probably because United in open play did nothing. They had like 0.53 XG in open play for the whole game, it felt like. There was these like tough shots that Cunha got off that were, that tested Leno, that hit the post, that did this, that did that. But none of it really contributed to any meaningful effort. They started fantastic. Cunha had 2 really good shots, and then it went all downhill. I have to question Ruben Amorim as well, because no offense to him, but he ends up at one point pulling off, Ahmad, which is fair. That's fine. It makes sense. Brings on Dalo, brings off Casemiro, brings on Šeško about, the 57th minute mark or so. The thing is, Šeško, he hasn't really gotten a start. And similar to a goalie, being a confidence position where you really, like, you can't just like plug and play a striker all the time. Sometimes you can't if the setup is there. Like you could see with Gyökeres at Arsenal, he's really starting to come into his own, and he looks like a proper signing for them because they have pieces around it. They have a solid backline. They have a robust midfield with some creativity. They have Saka. It's not like that United. He's got to go in with players who still kind of don't know each other in the front line all that well, don't know how to really link perfectly. And a midfield that's without, the 3 guys who started, Fernandes, Casemiro, and Mount, being kind of involved there and just kind of, fighting tooth and nail to make things work. It's not gonna coalesce really in the way that I think United want to keep control, because they had no control of this match. And Fulham, honestly, I think they played okay. Not a whole lot to talk about. I think Anderson played really well. I think Tete played incredibly in terms of, getting up, getting down, and being a thorn in their side. And so did Iwobi. When Anthony Robinson came in, that was also very, very, very impactful for Fulham. But United, it just feels like they're at a point where I don't know. I don't know where they go from here, because if Amram doesn't pick up the pace soon, there's going to be sack talks for sure. And if he gets sacked and they're bringing in this new Belgian goalie and they've got like really not any set number 1 who's impressive enough, and they've got this hodgepodge squad that's got players from eras of Manchester United managers past, I think that spells trouble. Comment down below with your thoughts. Subscribe if you're new. Like if you end up enjoying the video. I'm Sideline Sedo. Peace.